Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Ryan and Megan podcast. Today, we are going to give you guys a life update, kind of what we've been up to, and then also our 2025 plans so far.
Welcome into the 29th episode of the Ryan and Megan podcast. We are Ryan and Megan. We're two traveling physical therapists, and we are also traveling with our family. We have two young daughters. Right now, we're in Colorado, and today we're going to talk about how it's been and kind of what our plans are going forward.
Yeah, so we haven't been on the podcast in a while. Holidays all hit, and as you guys know, that gets busy. As travelers, holidays seem even more crazy because you got to travel back to see family, if you love your family, that is. And so we did have the opportunity to travel back. The girls kind of went ahead of me. What's nice is since we're in the Denver area, really easy to fly out of. And so flew back to our kind of home base and did Christmas.
Yeah, and before we get into the craziness of how Christmas was, if you don't mind leaving a 5-star review wherever you're listening, that would be really helpful. And give us feedback if you can comment on what you would like to hear next, what kind of questions you have about travel, or what stage you are in traveling. If you're just looking to get into it, if you've been traveling for a while, if you want to have a family, things like that, because we love to kind of get a little window and insight into what's going on in your world. Anyway, to jump back into what we've been up to around the holiday season, there was a lot of craziness going on. First, if we back up a little bit even further, we closed on our second house.
Yeah, we haven't announced that yet, but that was all going on in the background.
So we bought a second house, kept the first one that we had as a rental. And if you guys are interested in knowing more about that, it was very interesting, to say the least, especially because we are travelers and income and applications for mortgages and stuff like that. So if you're interested in hearing about that, let us know. We may do a future episode about that. But we closed on our second house, which just happens to be right next to my parents'. And then we flew back home for the holidays. I flew back early with the girls to catch cheaper flights, which is a luxury that we have with me not working right now. I can leave a little earlier. Ryan hopped on a flight, got there for the holidays. So we moved in. We had the holidays. My grandpa ended up passing while we were there, and we had his funeral, which was an amazing service, honestly. And then Ryan left and we got sick and spent the whole rest of the time there sick, and then came back to Colorado.
Yeah, the girls, Megan and the girls, were going to fly back a week after I got back. I got back so I could work some more. And about the time their flight was hitting, it was like, oh, we are really sick. I don't think we're going to make it. So we delayed the flight another week, and everyone was still sick. And
I'm pretty sure the whole country's been sick, it feels like.
It has been a rough winter of sickness.
And
that
whatever
is for
that
sure.
flu A is, I think it lasts like forever in a day. It was absolutely wild. But yeah, we've definitely had a busy season for sure.
Yes, so a lot going on. It was great to see everyone, though, during the holidays. The house buying stuff has been crazy, especially just being away from the house and trying to do everything, just from a distance. We weren't really planning on buying a house, but the one next to your parents came up, and we were like, wanted to hop on the opportunity. And then while we're gone, we're renting our house out. And so it was like we had to move stuff in, but it wasn't like
we're
a full
renting our new
move-in.
house out. That is.
Yes.
So we kept our first house as a rental. Our next house, it is our primary residence. We are going to live there, but since we're finishing out this contract, we were like, why not just rent out the upstairs like we do with our other place? So like he was saying, it wasn't only moving in our stuff, it was and staying there for the holidays and hosting holiday things. It was getting it like ready to be rented out as well.
Right. So just some crazy stuff. Don't necessarily say I would recommend trying to smash everything together around the holidays, but we survived. You guys made it back to Colorado.
Shout out to all of our parents. My mom flew out to Colorado just to fly back to St. Louis with me and the girls, so I didn't have to do it by myself. Your parents came and brought sick supplies and helped us with house stuff, and my parents have flipped the house, so definitely we could not have
Yeah,
done it by ourselves for sure.
not at all, not at all. That is one big perk, I think, for if you have a home base around, your tax home, having family around there is super helpful when you own stuff back in that tax home. Not that we are constantly needing to rely on them and you can always hire out stuff, but it's kind of nice to know that you have someone that you can trust if you need them to check on something.
Anything else you want to touch on about how crazy it was? And I mean, we could really go into a lot of detail, but that might be a little boring.
We could go into a lot of detail. I think a lot of the detail would come into just kind of house hacking. We do have one video when we bought our first house, and what went into us buying a house as
Mhm.
travelers, what we were thinking about, particularly in the house, because we wanted to be able to rent the basement out. So we have a basement rental in our home. And just kind of house hacking in general. And so I think we probably need to do a video on something like that. Again, comment and let us know
Yeah.
if you'd be interested in just home ownership as a traveler and then also maybe house hacking.
Mhm.
So we could probably go into a lot of detail with that. But
Yeah. Yeah, that
uh,
would be a good thing to circle back around to.
it's always like a life update podcast is always saying like, where have you guys been? And it's like, well, we've been busy.
Yeah.
And so, just podcasting in general while having a small family. Even tonight, we put the girls to bed, and we were kind of like, "Ooh, we need to do a podcast." We got some things we want to share with everyone, but you gotta
Hype yourself up.
hype yourself up and get going.
Yeah.
But
Well, that leaves us off at we've got about 6 weeks left here in Colorado, and I think we're both pretty sad to leave. We're looking forward to the next thing, the next chapter, and we haven't been home in a while, so that's something we're also wanting to be able to do, but this time here in Colorado has been amazing. This has been the perfect location. I feel like it couldn't get better than this.
yeah, I mean, well, we love the mountains in general, and so we've always been looking to get out to Colorado. Sometimes it's hard to find team travel jobs out here. A lot of times when I've checked, there hasn't been much home health. So we really scored a really great contract out here.
Mhm.
And then where we happened to find some housing is like the perfect location. We're 15 minutes into the to get to the mountains, and just a really
But
great
still in the
launching
city?
pad. And we've gotten to do so much here. We haven't even hardly shared most of it, but basically all the big things in Colorado you can do: going to Rocky Mountain National Park, going to a bunch of different little mountain towns,
Mhm. We went down to Colorado Springs and saw all the things that are there to see.
Pikes Peak.
Pikes Peak, Garden of the Gods. Um,
And really, I think good for our time in life right now with a small family, because used to Megan and I could just go and we'd camp somewhere random in a national forest, and we could go travel really hard on the weekends and far. Now we're in a time of life where we kind of need day trips that we can get to, and this has been awesome because
mhm.
we can drive an hour and be way up in the mountains.
There's a lot to see here. You can do so many different things. You can go into town if you wanna do that. You can see an endless amount of sites and hikes
Tons
and
of
state
hike.
parks
hmm
and national parks from just Denver.
Yeah.
So, um, it's really, really been awesome. This weekend, I think, is CSM coming up, and we're not gonna be making it to that this year. That's something that, travel makes harder when you do have kids because we don't have childcare in the traveling cities that we're at. Typically, we don't set that up. Typically, we don't look for daycares or people to watch our kids just because that's a lot of vetting and that's a lot of new people and risks that you're taking with your kids. So we will be missing out on that this year, but I hope everybody had or has so much fun and enjoys that. Um, but we do have a trip coming up that we do have planned within this next 6 weeks.
Yes. So if you guys aren't familiar or you're not a physical therapist like Megan and I, CSM is just a big convention for physical therapists, and it's a blast. We haven't gotten to go in a very long time, but it's really cool to see people of familiarity.
There's a lot of meetups. You can meet
Mhm.
up with other travelers if you are a traveler and you go or you want to learn about travel. Tons of continuing education, tons of um, people who are leaders in the field. And
Yeah, definitely. If you're out there and you have the opportunity to go to one of those, even for your own discipline, definitely look at going because it is very enjoyable and you can knock out a bunch of those CEUs.
Mhm.
We do have a vacation plan coming up here soon, and it's actually with one of our travel companies. We've done a video on this. It's really probably the best travel therapy travel company perk that we've ever have found, and it's really that you work with this company and you can earn yourself a vacation. And truly a free all inclusive beach resort in Mexico vacation. And so we went last year. We earned it the previous year, but didn't get to go. And so we're going to get to go this year, and we're definitely really excited. That'll be like in March or so.
Mhm. Yeah, so we have some family that's planning to come out and watch the kids while we're gone. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so if you're interested in which travel company that is, go ahead and send us a message or email us. Hit us over there on Instagram, direct message. But we also have a whole video, so you can look back through our videos for best travel company perk, where we reveal it there. We've worked with this company for a long time. We take a majority of our travel contracts actually with them. We work with multiple different companies
Mhm.
as you should as a traveler, which kind of feels weird, but um, there it's really great. And I've never seen a travel perk like it.
Mhm. Yeah. So we are needing to kind of plan out our last couple things to do here in Colorado that we want to make sure we check off the list. But it is winter, so that has slowed us down a little bit. But one thing we have loved is the sun is still shining here in Colorado in the winter,
Hmm.
and that's made it a bit more bearable. But
Yeah, I feel like as your travel contract gets towards its end, you kind of feel it a little bit. And so then, especially if you're in a really cool place like Denver, then you start looking at your weekends and you're like counting off your weekends. You're like, okay, I only have
I
five
only have
weekends left,
this many
six
more.
weekends left. And then you try to get those planned out. We
Mhm.
we like to when we start a contract to look at the weekends ahead of time and then think of the big things we want to do. And we kind of just go ahead and put them on our schedule. Like this weekend, we're looking to go to Rocky Mountain National Park. Or this weekend, we're going to do the Pikes Peak all the way up to the top.
Mhm.
And that helps us kind of hit some of the big things. But this past, we kind of rolled into the new year hot, and so we didn't have much planned.
Yeah.
And then everyone was sick, and so we were not able to go do stuff. And so we got just a few more weekends left, and we want to take advantage of those.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess we should roll into the next kind of phase of what we're going to be doing as we're looking forward. I would say usually it's a little bit early to be knowing what your next plans are in a contract. Like I said, we still have 6 weeks. So I would say it's still comfortable to be looking at your options, interviewing, figuring out what you're going to do, but we actually secured that super early this time. But before we get into that, if you are interested in some of our recruiters that we work with, and maybe which companies they belong to, let us know. We have a link down below in the show notes. You can also email us at Brian and Megan O'Rear at gmail.com. And we would be happy to share our recruiter recommendations with you if you want to start traveling or if you just want to have some other resources for finding travel jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are we going to do next?
So our 2025 plans, or really kind of our next contract that we have secured, is not one that we had on our radar. We were pretty set on either maybe even going back to our tax home. You know, we did just buy a new home, so we've been eager
Mhm.
to kind of get back in there. We've been on the road for oh man, almost like a year and a half.
Mhm.
So, we have been wanting to get back to see grandparents, see all that. We also thought our friends that we are currently living with and traveling with here in Denver, Evan and Leah, they had mentioned, going to Florida. And we were like, well, that kind of sounds cool. So let's look at some Florida jobs. But then these jobs kind of popped up in our home state of Missouri. And what kind of caught our eye was there was two jobs, and they were relatively close to one of our family members that has babysat for us before. You've probably actually seen her on some of our videos. We took her along when we first had her, Reagan, our first girl, and she kind of lived with us and babysat for us as Megan and I both worked as travelers. And so there just happened to be two home health jobs that popped up near her. And we called her and we were like, hey, would you be willing to babysit a little bit for us? And then also the other thing is that the pay package on this job was really, really like probably the most I've seen in Missouri. And so we were kind of like, well, do we go there? Do we go have fun in Florida, essentially? And it was really
Because
tempting
there was nothing back home,
because
right?
there was nothing back home. Um, do we go to Florida and essentially keep how we've been doing it? I would work and Megan would stay home with the girls. Or do we take advantage of this kind of opportunity to get some babysitting that we trust and then have both Megan and I work the travel contracts?
So that's what we did. We're trying to make bank here in the next 3 months, okay? That's the goal. Not necessarily adventure,
No,
but we are going to be in the section of Missouri that is a little bit more mountainous, if you want to call Missouri mountainous at
big
all.
hilly.
And we're going to be close to family, and I'm going to be working for the first time in about 2 years, which is wild to think that
It
it's been
is.
2 years.
It is very wild to think.
So that's going to be interesting hopping back into that. I know it's kind of like riding a bike. You just kind of get back on and start again. So, that's a plan. We're hopefully moving back into the RV. I don't know who knows if you've heard what we said. It's been a while. But when we took it out for July 4th, we blew a tire and completely ripped up the whole bathroom and the water system and the shower and everything. So it has been in the shop since August, and it just got done like this past month, right? January?
Technically, it's still at the shop.
Yes.
They're finishing it up.
Yeah.
So we have not had it, hence why we're renting here a house in Denver. But we would love to get back into it. Well, we think we would love. We've been in a big house for the past 6 months, so it'll be
It'll
another
be a big
shift
change.
to get back to the RV. But that's what we're planning on, and it's kind of interesting. And we talk about this every so often about how flexible travel can be, and depending on what stage of life you're in, what your goals are, what your priorities are. It might be, no, I want to go see cool things. That's why we came to Denver. We wanted to see cool things. Cost of living has been high here. It hasn't necessarily been lucrative or anything like that, but we wanted to be in the mountains. We wanted to enjoy it. And that was kind of our priority. And then for this priority, we had an opportunity to, hey, we could do this for 13 weeks and we could make some really good money. So now our priority is more on the money side, a little less on the adventure side. We'll find things to do. There's always things to do wherever you go. But it's a little bit more leaning on the money side. And you can kind of flex in and out of your priorities however you want and really customize travel to what you need it to be.
Mhm. Yeah, so we're definitely really shifting gears. And I don't know if I've really processed it yet. I was laying in bed, I couldn't sleep, just thinking about, oh my gosh, we're moving back into an RV from like 3,000 square feet to like 300. I don't even know what it is.
I
400.
don't even know.
I have to work. The girls have never, like Lainey doesn't know me ever being away. Um, so it's going to be a lot of change, and that is part of travel. You got to get used to it and just anticipate and know that it's going to happen. And also, tidbit on the RV part. you can kind of see that might be one of the considerations you would take into effect if you're wondering about an RV. You just know if something happens, it could take you 6 months to get it
Yeah.
fixed.
Takes your home away from you.
But there's backups. Like, we've been fine. We have been fine staying in this house, and it's been great.
Mhm.
So
I think another thing to mention on our next contracts is we weren't sure if Megan would work a full 40 hours uh, and if we could do a part time contract.
mhm.
And so this is the first time that we've actually negotiated on the interview with the facility and with our travel company for Megan to work 3 days a week. So really, it's like a part-time gig, but it's still a travel contract. And so that was kind of unique. I feel like.
Yeah, we could definitely hop into more of the details in a future episode about what does a contract difference look like between full-time and part-time. But just knowing that it is an option to negotiate your hours, um, especially in our situation, we're two PTs for the same company. So it kind of depends on their need in that regard as well. So we'd love to get into that in the future. But yeah, we got 3 days a week. I think that'll work really, really well for us.
Yeah, it'll work really well. And they could have told us no, but we asked and they were like, "Yeah, that seems pretty good. We'll take 1.5 PTs."
Yeah.
So we are excited for kind of another chapter that we're moving on to. Everywhere we go is an adventure, that's for sure.
hmm
And
We're coming up on 5 years traveling.
we'll bring you guys along. Yes, we are. 5 years. That is crazy.
It's wild.
It
I
it
don't
feels
know how
it
I feel
doesn't
about it.
feel like we've been traveling that long, but also when we think back of all that we've gotten to do in 5 years, it's kinda like, "Whoa, I can't believe we fit all that into 5 years."
Yeah.
A lot of good opportunities.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for listening and catching up with us, what we've been up to. That was a very brief review of things that have been going on, but we hope we kind of caught you up. And we are looking forward to talking with you guys next time. Again, let us know below what you'd be interested in hearing about.
All right. Till next time.
See ya.
See ya.